So, since I don't really know who's watching my channel, I think there's a couple people viewing, and maybe this is going to take off. Um, Mostly, I have been on TikTok for the last couple of years, and up until when my husband died, he did a lot of TikToks with me. So, a lot of people there know our story, but I thought I would go back to the beginning because I really do think we kind of had a fairy tale life together. And I met Larry through a mutual friend in, I think, January of 1998, I believe. I was divorced, newly divorced, and Larry actually was more interested in me. I had, over my life, I was about 42, I think he was 62, but over my life, I had never dated anybody older than me, maybe a year or two, but mostly my age or a tad younger. Larry was 20 years older than I was, and I wasn't interested. And he pursued and pursued and pursued till we started maybe talking on the phone because we lived about an hour away from each other. And so we've talked on the phone. I'm not sure how long, a month, a couple months, maybe, I don't know, till I finally agreed, kind of wore me down. And I finally agreed that I would meet him for lunch one Saturday, halfway between our two houses. And so we met, and, I was pleasantly surprised. Having somebody really in another generation was a much different experience. Well, we started dating, and I really liked him, and he really liked me. But he told me up front that he was damaged, that he had been divorced twice as I had been, and that he just didn't think that he was capable of loving anyone. And so, I had just gotten divorced. I certainly wasn't interested in getting married again. So, that's fine. And so I worked full time in Clearwater. He worked full time as a home inspector in Tampa. And so, we got together whenever we could. Well, over a year, we did start growing closer, but his thought about loving somebody never changed. And about 6 months into it, I knew I was in love with him. And I did tell him, and he would just pat my shoulder and say, sweet baby was his favorite thing. Anyway, it didn't really change anything. And so we went on about 6 months more. And in January of 1999, one Saturday, he said, "Hey, why don't you come over? I'm thinking about buying a sports car." And I said, "Sure, I'll go with you." So we go out looking at cars, and he had a definite car in mind, and it was a Mazda Miata. It was one of their special ones, had special wheels and stuff, and it was colored. It was really cute. And so we went, and he bought it, and we get back to his condo, and he says, if you want to leave your car here and take this car, you're welcome to drive it. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, what's going on here? And so I did. And next month was Valentine's Day, except on the 13th, and it was a Saturday. I had gone over, and I don't know what we're going to do that day, but he comes out with a card, and it was a Valentine's card. So first I'm thinking, he thinks today's the 14th. And I think I even said, hey, I don't think so. It's the 14th. He says, no, it is. I go, okay. So he gives me a card, and Valentine's card doesn't say Love Larry. And the next thing I think a box of candy or something. And so the next thing I know, he says, I've been thinking about it, and I really like you. And I can see us being together, I can see being with you the rest of my life. Would you marry me? And I said, I actually have kind of thought about that. And I don't think I just want to be married to a friend. I want to be married to somebody who's in love with me, and I love you. And he goes, well, I've told you, I've been up front. And so I said, well, you know what? I do think you love me. I said, let me ask you some questions. And so I went down these list of questions I made up, like, you know, can you, do you think about me all the time when I'm not here? And do you, wish I was here when I wasn't here? And, you already said you think about living a life together. And I think I had 10 questions. And he answered yes to every one of them. And I go, well, Larry, that's love. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah. He said, well, I love you. And I said, well, I'll marry you. And so that was February 13th. And going forward, we have always celebrated Valentine's Day on February 13th. We ended up getting married on March 29th. We had planned originally to get married, I think, at the beginning of the summer once school was out. I was a teacher. And finally, one day he just called me and goes, your spring break is coming up in March. Why don't we just go ahead and get married? No sense in waiting. And I said, sure, And so that's how we got married. So that's going to be part one of the Larry and I story. I hope you come back for part two.